Alright, Nathan here with another scientific video. Today we're going to be doing another one of those debunking videos. The last one seemed to do pretty good. So today we have a gentleman here talking about the flat earth. So without further ado, I'll let him get into it.
This is a woman that gave birth on an airplane. This was back in October. This isn't even a new story. But I'm not going to play the video because I don't want any copyright problems. But here's another one from CNN too. It's a legitimate story, so please look it up. The story is they were going from Bali to LAX. They had to make an emergency landing in Alaska because a woman gave birth on a plane, which is kind of a cool story anyway. But there's a problem with this. This just says they landed in Alaska, but you can do a little searching to find out that they landed in Anchorage, Alaska. So if you look at that on a map, Anchorage, Alaska is up here off the coast of the tail of Alaska, I guess. It's where the water meets the land right here. That's where Anchorage is. The problem I have with this story is that if we live on a globe, flying from Bali to LAX and having to make an emergency landing way up here in Alaska doesn't make any sense. Does it make sense to you? It doesn't make sense to me.
Alright, already I can see a problem here, but I'm going to wait to address that for a minute.
This scale down here is 1,000 miles. So at some point during this flight, supposedly when she had the baby on the plane, they had to make an emergency landing, what, 2,500 miles off course?
I'll bring up why your distances here are wrong in a minute.
I mean, more than 2,000 miles off course no matter where they were to get up there. Does that make sense to you? If we live on a ball, this has to make sense to you.
Alright, now this is one of the big problems here. You see, you're starting with the predisposition that the Earth is flat, and as such, you're using the flat map to make that point. Now, if you're trying to disprove the ball Earth, what you should really do is show us why this doesn't make sense on the globe model here. In fact, I think the reason why you're confused as to why it's not making sense is because you're using the wrong map. You see, on a flat map projection like that, your distances get really skewed the farther you get from the equator. Alright, here's that same distance on the globe map here. Now, in the news story it says that the woman gave birth about 6 hours into the flight, so a little over a quarter. Now, at that time, you'll notice that Anchorage is actually not as far out of the way from LA as it looked on the flat map model you were using. In fact, it actually makes a lot more sense.
This goes deeper than that. Let's just say they weren't going to LAX. Let's say they were flying to Alaska. Well, when you book a flight from Bali to Anchorage, look at this. The 19-hour flight goes to almost a full day. But that's a shortcut. That's where they made their emergency landing. So they go from this. She has a baby at some point on this flight. They need to make an emergency landing. So they zip up here. I wonder how fast they landed in Alaska. I wonder how long they were actually in the air. Because if this flight was 19 hours and they had to stop prematurely, I'm assuming they were in the air less than 19 hours. Wouldn't you assume that?
Alright, this is another problem. Now here you're looking at time and not the actual distance. When we look at the actual distance, we'll see that from Bali to LA is a little over 8,000 miles. And when we look at Bali to Anchorage, it's a little under 7,000 miles. So that's actually over 1,000 miles closer than what you stated.
Would you assume that they kicked up their flight, 4 hours or so? Yeah, me neither. So in thinking about this, I looked at it in a different way.
On a round Earth?
If you look at it on a flat Earth map,
Darn.
and you're going from Bali to LAX here in Los Angeles, Anchorage, Alaska is on the way. So if somebody had a baby on the plane and they had to stop somewhere, this makes perfect sense.
actually it doesn't really make perfect sense now, because now all your distances are screwed up, and this is kind of contradicting what you just said earlier, but we'll let you keep going with this.